I judged other women and decided I'm not going to be like that. I'm not that kind of girl. And I went the opposite way so that I wouldn't be. I was like, I've got the self dignity not to be that way. And I put down other women. Now that came back on me in the way, unfortunately, as I viewed other women and as sort of less than men, which is a lot of what our culture. This is not a feminist rant. I just need to tell you my story. Hey friends, Bria Katrin here. I am a self-directed neuroplasticity coach. Apparently I can't say that today if you don't already know me. I love Jesus. I love sharing what God has done in my own life and those that I have helped as well find health, freedom from chronic illness, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of them all at once. So here we are. I get to talk about my blog again, unpacking it really in learning to walk in healing and in wholeness. And at the root of it, if you haven't watched any of my videos yet, we're gonna get to a bit of that root today, which is all about love, healing, everything. So stay tuned for more of that. But I pray that there are things that practically can help you today, and because we're going a little bit deeper. We're going a bit deeper. So if you are listening and you're watching for any length of time and that you have been blessed at all by my videos, I hear that all the time when I meet people, which blows me away, from all over the world, that there are things that I've said, I'm like, I don't even remember saying that, that have helped them. Please let me know. Please comment. Please like. Please share. Please subscribe. Let other people know that there is hope for healing from their chronic illness and walking in true freedom and knowing God truly, walking in that peace and our union with Him, that new creation life. But if you want help one-to-one, I am here. And I also have my classes that you can always check out on my website, my Gateway to Healing Neuroplasticity program, which is a boot camp. And then I have my 12-week coaching, group coaching for a deeper dive, and I also do one-to-one coaching, and I love helping people. It has been incredibly impactful for many people to get that one-to-one support, especially ongoing one-to-one support, so we can start to unpack things and really see the Lord take you on a journey to your freedom too. Okay, so today, again, as always, I don't have a title yet for my video. I am literally watching these two kitty cats looking out a window right now across the street. It's like the cutest thing. It's my audience. Get two kitty cats. Random. See, I still get off focus too, in your mind when you're in the middle of healing and you're like, I can't stay focused. See, I just got on. I'm like, oh, kitty cats. I'm like a small child. I'm like, puppies. Okay. Let's do this. Let's go. So the overall, Lord, if you can give me 10 words to say this in, I want to talk about our humanity for healing and learning our value in a way, and learning when you're not helping yourself or others, and really defacing humanity. And what that might look like for some of us, because God's had to do a work in me to help me see the ways in which I have unwillingly, unconsciously disqualified myself by judging and defacing humanity. That's not a nice thing to have to admit. Okay, let's go. But first, we're going to go there, and I'm going to come back to 1 John. I was going to go to 1 John 4, because that is so important. Okay, if we're talking about healing from chronic illness, we are talking about bondage to the enemy, and we are talking very much about stress responses. So we are inherently, in a spiritual sense, talking about love versus fear. That's just like the simple way of putting this, love versus fear. And Whether you want to look at it biomechanically and talk about it in terms of neurochemistry and the dose chemistry versus the can chemistry, the rest and digest versus that self-protection. Someone who is self-protecting does not feel safe. They are in fear, ultimately. Even if it's like you feel guilty, you feel whatever, you don't feel it, it's still coming down to there is going to be fear involved. And I've yet to see a case that that is not true, even if you don't feel like consciously that you're fearing. And what do we know about love? One, love never fails. That is like my favorite verse in the Bible in 1 Corinthians. But here we have a beautiful description of love in First John 4. We're not going to read the whole thing. Very much is telling us about the outworking of love in chapter 3, the imperative love and the outworking of love and abiding in God and abiding in his love. And it's important for us to know in order to actually love others, we need to let God love us because we respond in love back. And if we're not responding in love back to God, there's no way that we're going to be responding in love back to other people, ultimately. True love. Maybe there's a way in which, Lord, maybe you can tell me a way in which people are acting in love, true love, agape love back to other people where you're not involved. I'm not 100% sure. But the point is that in order to love one another, love is of God. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. So we will love one another in a sense, this is going to come back on you. That's where I'm getting to when you're loving one another, when we know God. And we know that in the consummation of love here in 1 John 4. Gosh, there's so much. Lord help me. Verse 17, love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. When we can sit here and say, God loves me. I can have boldness in that day of judgment. Man, that is powerful. To let all of that sin go, all of our shortcomings go, and be able to stand there in front of God and have boldness when love has been perfected in us. But anyway, there is no fear in love. There is no fear in love. That's why you can stand boldly in the day of judgment. There's no fear in that love when you've been perfected in this love. But perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. But he who fears has not been made perfect in love. We love him because he first loved us. So if we're struggling to receive, we are putting up roadblocks, as I've said in the past, ultimately, unknowingly, and resisting love from receiving his love. We have not been perfected in love. Okay, so one practical application to this actually comes in Matthew 7. I'm just going to read the verse and then we're going to unpack it a bit. And I hope that this blesses somebody, because this has been so big for me. Matthew 7, judge not, verse 1, that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. I'm going to stop there. So most of the time I feel like people read that and it's like, oh, goodness me, God's going to judge me badly if I'm judging other people. Therefore, sort of enlightened self-interest would say that I shouldn't judge other people, because then I'm not going to be judged harshly. I guess if that's a place to start, that's a place to start. But what I found is that if I'm judging other people, I'm defacing humanity, which is God's creation. And he loves and adores each person that he made. Each person, maybe not the sin, obviously, but the person that he made is good. The Bible tells us that in the creation story, that what he made is good. And they are precious in his sight. And so if I am judging somebody, I am defacing his creation. I am actually defacing our humanity, And it does come back to me because, in a sense, I'm also then defacing my own worth as a child of God. So, how does this maybe potentially happen in our lives? I don't know exactly the mechanism by which it happens. I do know that for me, I had to learn that I actually, because of the way that I grew up, especially being sexualized at a young age, wanting to be cool and popular, and how do I like get boys to like me? How do I be popular? How do I be liked? Um, I really, I mean, women are often sadly defaced as sex objects, and then there's also the defacing of women as if we're just these like overly emotional beings, or just like high maintenance or whatever it is. So I judged other women and decided I'm not going to be like that. I'm not that kind of girl. And I went the opposite way so that I wouldn't be. I like basically, I was like, I've got the self dignity not to be that way. And I put down other women. Now that came back on me in the way, unfortunately, as I viewed other women and as sort of less than men, which is a lot of what our culture. This is not a feminist rant. I just need to tell you my story to show a help you understand how I defaced myself as a woman because of the way that I took in and compared and judged other women. And it came back on me because in the end, in the background of my mind and in my heart, there's this whole like, men aren't going to take you seriously. You're just a girl. You can't be emotional. You can't be like that, because if you're like that, then men are going to look down on you. You're not like that. And I couldn't actually embrace my womanhood, which is a beautiful, like precious, amazing gift from God. And it took down my worth because I defaced women, kind of that collective unconscious, and in turn, it came back on me. And man, to wire out that, to really give women this beautiful position that God gives us and is truly, really there. Like, I filtered for most of my life unknowingly, as if men were looking at me the way in which I was now judging these so-called lesser than women. And that very much affected me in my security, my worth, what they were thinking about. Like, it was all there in the back of my mind. So why am I saying all this, and what the heck does that have to do with healing? It's just one example in the ways in which, when we are judging other people for their behaviors, for whatever's happening, that we actually deface humanity. If I deface a man, a father, and sort of like, even if I want to say men and women are equal as parents, or not equal, but the same, like father and mother are the same. You can't, it's just personality. There's no difference. It's just a father versus a mother. And, it's personality. You can't say that one has some sort of like special thing about them. That, if I do that about men and saying like, well, I start to take away the beautiful reality of what it's like to be a father who's the provider and the protector and brings order in a family that's the way that God made them, then in an essence, I'm actually taking down my own motherhood. Unknowingly, because I've defaced them, I've also defaced, in turn, taking that down, as if like there's no difference. Whereas a mom is very much made to come and bring life and nurture and care. We are made different. So the point of me saying all of this is to say that so often these things that God tells us to do in the Bible are There's self-interest involved in that, because we get down these pathways of bondage in the ways that we end up viewing others. It comes back on us. And we do not view ourselves as special, as unique, as beautiful. I mean, this is where, and pride gets very much in this. Comparing to others, it's defacing. If we ever compare this, okay, man, this is me. Okay, how much time do we have? This is like so much of what my life was, because I didn't have God to tell me unconditionally that I'm loved. There are people in my life who did their best, but through their own life experiences, for whatever reason, the enemy getting in moments, it got broken. And so my worth, like anybody who grows up in North America and watches, growing up watches like Saved by the Bell, and maybe that wasn't like that bad of a show, but just like popular American culture, and you learn that you're supposed to like climb this ladder, and these are really important people. They're the special people who are out succeeding in life in all these different like avenues, specifically, career, intellectual. For me, learning athletics was a big one. Socially, they're super popular. Like, these are like above. They're elevated above. And so learning that then to keep myself elevated, how do you do that? You got to put other people down beneath you. I did not do this on purpose. This sounds like I'm like a horrible person. But in the end, when you are feeling like it's coming in on you, that you're hearing like voices, or you're not perfect, obviously, because nobody's best at everything. You're trying to justify it and judge other people to make yourself feel better about yourself. Every one of us has done this, I think. I did it a lot unknowingly, because I had nowhere else to go to rest in this reality that I'm created by God and that He loves me and I'm unique. So in this journey, when we start to get into comparing, we are in pride, because we are trying to find this ego of me feeling special, me feeling different, me feeling whatever it is, and we feel threatened by somebody else who's potentially coming up the ranks beside us or passing us in some measure, some way. There's something special about us that's in our identity that's now being attacked, and it doesn't feel good, and we don't know how to handle when we're not the best, or we can't somehow manipulate in our minds and figure out how we possibly are the best. Does that sound really egotistical? Yeah. Really self-serving? Yep. And I'm not saying everyone's been down this pathway, but I have. And unknowingly, because I had no idea how much I was a hypocrite in a sense of role playing in my life. I really embodied love. I wanted to love people. I wanted to just love on people. I just was seeking joy, unknowing that over time, in the end, it was all very self-serving, because I wanted people to like me. And I was elevating or finding my safety in people liking me. Obviously, fear of man, all of that. Where am I going with healing on this, Lord? How do we get down this pathway? Pride. So judging other people comes often from this pride, and this, we all have it. So please don't in any way, like every single one of us has not been perfected yet and free from pride. Probably there's many people who are further along the journey than I am. I know I've been on like a pretty intense journey to like bring that down and to really enter into truly humbling myself, and so much in healing when you start to take credit for anything good that is happening in your healing journey, and you start to compare at all, you can very easily let pride back in if you've been trying to not, very easily. Okay, so the judge not, so like he's telling us, like, if you deface other people, it will come back on you, and it will deface you as you're trying to like keep yourself above. Okay, so oh yeah, because we want to receive love. And if I am constantly defacing other people, judging other people, comparing to other people, again, which comes from pride, I am going to have a hard time, because it's coming back on me, I'm going to have a hard time receiving true, unconditional love from the one who created me. Because now I have a lot of bondage in here about who I am and what I'm worth. And that takes some undoing, is the whole point of me saying this. That absolutely takes some undoing to know who God says that you truly are, and to work out these layers of really defacing humanity. And so loving other people will be a byproduct of receiving love and giving out love, receiving love, loving God back, and then the outworking will be in loving other people. So one measure of growth in healing and focus on knowing God is by knowing and abiding in love. And he gives us all kinds of ways to do this. You can't do it without God. You can't do it on your own and try to fake it until you make it. I mean, you can try. I'm not telling you to go and be a jerk until it's like real. I'm just saying that that ultimately there is a journey for all of us, but that we are so safe in love, and we are often afraid of letting go and entering in. We feel like we can't be vulnerable, we can't be trusting. It comes back to, again, this worth of like, am I really worth this kind of love? Like, because now there's all kinds of lies, and we, and maybe potentially what we really think about God isn't that he really is all that loving, and would stick around. Like we see that he's like, maybe like he's meeting out, like giving out some love, but then like you really need to do something, or else he's just gonna withhold it, or he's not gonna continue like coming after you. He's gonna like, meh, all right, well, that's as good as it gets. Like, no. He's like, come, dear child. And he wants us to let go and to come into these spaces so that he can start to bring that healing, and we can start to receive. And as we let go, as I was saying before, it's all about these self-protective mechanisms in the nervous system that are very much a byproduct of what's going on in our hearts and what's happened in our lives. So that alarm system can start to come down in the body, the inflammatory processes. We can start to detox. We can start to have cellular just renewal, like this life start to flow as antibodies, immune system, hormones, all these things, the gut, all this stuff starts to come back into proper alignment when self-protection is no longer the sort of ongoing that's siphoning off our energy, our resources, causing inflammatory processes, hardening our nervous systems, causing all kinds of pain, all kinds of different things. It's amazing how we can connect that all back to receiving and resisting God's love, which comes down to, again, identity. And I'm trying to help you see ways in which we have defaced ourselves, and by defacing other human beings, and not just not seeing how beautiful each of us is individually and collectively as his children. So one thing that you can intentionally do in your healing journey overall is look for ways in which you are potentially judging somebody else, and then turn that around and ask the Lord how, in the end, potentially you are defacing humanity in general, and how maybe that's linked to you judging yourself. But maybe there's just one person at a time that you can work on and learn and ask God to show you their worth, your worth, their worth. Because maybe sometimes for some people it's easier to see how, I could see how God could love them. And then turn that around and be like, well, what about me? That's you too. Okay, so you could, sorry, I'm trying to remember where I was taking this train of thought. So that God can reveal to you ways in which you can change the story around, especially if you're judging somebody else. Is like, ugh. For me, I remember as I was starting to work out again and seeing these really fit women, I was like, ugh, not fair. Like, and I really decided, if that's a beautiful example of like a body that is healthy and is doing well, and I can have that too. Like, I am God's child. He wants that for me too. So I turned that around. Right now, without talking to each one of you who's listening and maybe feels like this is something that might help them, I would say that it's hard for me to help people without talking to them individually. It's just at least acknowledging that, like, I'm actually defacing the humanity, and in the end, I'm taking my own value down, and my value and my worth is important for me to know in order for me to let go of lies and not be blinded by the enemy and not blocking God's love that he's wanting to pour into me. So that's the whole point of my video today, to help people to see this connection in the things that Jesus is telling us are not these quote unquote standards that's like, oh, you're going to be judged badly because you're judging other people. It's him showing us that we don't know the love of God, and we are resisting and we are not receiving his love for us, which in turn there will be an outworking of that when we respond and we receive it. I can see how much more I'm like blown away by how beautiful people are to me. Not like just physically, yes, more physically too, but just in general, like the overall like weight that a person in front of me carries to me now is it's real. Like, it's real. Whereas before, I potentially could have looked like I really cared. And oftentimes I did for the people that were close to me in my life, but very different than what it's like now, where I can just sit there and like awe and wonder and see like this beautiful, gorgeous person that God handcrafted and knit in their mother's womb for every single person. I see it with homeless people. I see it with people who are struggling, with different handicaps, and the people that you would normally quote unquote look down on. I actually now am learning and growing in that capacity to be able to sit there and be like, wow, this is like God's precious child. And it's taken a while, and it takes a journey of truly humbling ourselves before the Lord, recognizing that there is pride driving. The enemy is working through that pride and envy. And then through that, unknowingly, we end up in these very self-protective, comparing, and like really trying to like keep ourselves out of fear, trying to keep ourselves feeling safe, because don't steal away what I believe about myself, which is that I'm special because, and then because I'm this or I'm not this or I'm whatever. And there's like identity attached to it, which is out of comparison, out of judgment, out of looking to others and comparing ourselves to other people. So, okay, long video, not as long as some of my other ones, but I hope that there's some practical help that can come in your healing journey, because as always, as much as this is a physical healing journey for many of you, I am doing my best to bring the Word of God and the spiritual reality together in line with scientific truth, so that those of you who have found that a mechanistic approach that just brings out, neural pathways and whatever it is functional medicine has tried to bring to you, that you're just not seeing the true freedom, that there is so much more. And it might feel annoying in a sense, from one sense, because it's like, well, what about these other people? For me, it was like, yeah, but they're getting away with like not having to like do all this hard work. But the beautiful gift when I flipped that around, I said, yeah, but like, I would never be willing to do this work right now and changing what's truly in here, because I couldn't get away with it unless my heart truly was being purified and transformed by the love of God. My body was like, bleh! And I really had to. I had no other option. And when instead I turned around and I said, oh my goodness, like I'm getting like the intense masterclass on like how to follow Jesus right now. And there are many other people who have been believers longer than me, who have followed Jesus longer than me, and they're kind of in this like, it just seemed like some growth, but just kind of like muddling along. And I was like, no, 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 no. Like, I need to see this as a beautiful gift that my body does this to me, because I, in turn, can come and only go one way, which is to Jesus Christ. And then he's able to do this mighty work in me that is super humbling and very, very, very life-giving. Like, there's so much reward in it. So stick with it. And again, if you need any help, I am here. I love you all already. God bless.